from, how do you get here, that type of thing. So we can end up in San Bernardino. And then from San Bernardino, what do you do? And what led you to embrace this project of Black history? You know, or be Black Rose, or the parade, or whatever it is. Something motivated you to do that. At any level that you came in, if you weren't there at the beginning, something still motivated you later on, and you becoming the president. What made that happen in your life? And so people later on can see what you have done, and they'll be inspired to do as possible for Dr. Hill and you, Genevieve, and
Troy.
I keep Troy.
Troy,
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
So, but let me know when you are ready.
Let's get a couple shots of it. Keep talking for a
Okay.
second.
Okay, that's right. So, let's see, you got a head up here. Okay. You and I'll meant to go and you start with you, and you tell us your name and how to spell it, and we'll go on, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I'm ready. Now, when you speak, please just slide your mic over to you.
We want you to, you don't think we need that on the table?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, when we say our name, do you want to say our full name or?
Yeah,
Okay.
your full name and spelling of your full name.
Okay.
So we can start with that.
Go ahead, I'm ready.
Okay. Today's date is 4/28/15. My name is Ratibu Jacocks, and I have the pleasure interviewing, three people who are very important to the inland area. The name of your organization is what?
San Bernardino Black Culture Foundation.
San Bernardino. And your name is what?
Emil Latroy Ingram, EMIL, Latroy, LATROY, Ingram, INGRAM.
Are you part of the Ingram family?
I'm part of a Ingram family.
The Ingram family. But, and then next, just point this to her. Point that as we go. And your name?
Genevieve Echols.
And what's your position with the organization? And spell your full name for me, too.
My name's spelled Genevieve. Last name Echols, Echols. I currently hold the position of the president of the foundation.
And the foundation is what?
San Bernardino Black Culture Foundation.
Okay.
My name is Margaret Hill, MargaretHill. I am one of the executive advisors for the San Bernardino Black Culture Foundation.
Okay. Now, were any of you born in this area?
I was.
You were born here. And where were you born?
I was born on the west side of San Bernardino. Lived here all my life. Went to school here, opened my business here.
Well, who were some of the black leaders or politicians when you were growing up or when you were younger?
Well, we had a lot. We had a lot of grassroots back in the day. We were kind of separated from the traditional powers that be in the city. You know, there were no minorities in any position. So I came up under Frances Grimes, Valerie Pope, Miss Sherrills. I look at Willie Clark. You know, we were a melting pot of people back then, but it was from within.
And where did most of the blacks live during that time?
We
in
all
San
lived.
Bernardino.
Even a lot of the military. We lived on the west side of San Bernardino. We were from the freeway west between Highland to 5th Street and to Rialto. And at some point we started migrating into Rialto.
Okay. And Mrs. Hill, where were you born?
I was born in the beautiful state of Virginia.
Thank you.
I came to California in December of 1969. Got my first job at Operation Second Chance, and that's where I had an opportunity to meet and interact with Francis Grice, Wesley Jefferson, Richard Cole, Bobby Cole, Willie Garrett, Valerie Pope Ludlam, uh, Al Twine,
Altwine.
Al Twine, Herschel Pierce,
Mm-hmm.
and I think those were
How about Bob Parker?
Bob Parker.
Parker,
Yes, I
yeah.
purchased my first car in California from Bob Parker. Uh, and
So what brought you here to San Bernardino area?
it's calling having a new outlook on life.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going through separation,
Okay.
and since I had two brothers here, one in San Bernardino, one in San Francisco. I stopped in San Bernardino where it was 76 degrees and said, no way am I going to stay there. I went to San Francisco where it rained every day, and I said, no way am I going to stay there. So I came back here. So I
In
took
San
the heat over the
Bernardino.
rain.
And do you think you were sent here, or you just accidentally came here?
No, it wasn't by accident.
It wasn't by accident.
No,
It was some divine pulling, you think?
well, no, one of the things that happened, I just felt I wanted a distance between
okay.
my
You-
ex and me, not
You
knowing.
were moving from something.
I was moving from something,
Okay,
yeah.
not going- okay.
Yeah, I was. Yes, I was leaving something behind, not looking for something.
Okay.
So didn't work because he was here 3 months later. So, but it's also a time that when I started with in education, I had a chance to meet and interact with John Woods, Hardy Brown, Jewel Shelton.
And John Woods was what for education? So a lot of people may not know.
He was
him.
the first African American school board member.
Right.
Uh,
Jewel
Jewel Shelton was the first female African American school board a member.
Mm-hmm.
Then Hardy Brown.
Mhm.
Then we had Danny Tillman, Tony Dupree,
Mm-hmm.
and then came Margaret.
You.
I think. Yeah.
That
Yeah,
is wonderful. So
Yeah.
I always say that we're driven by inspiration or desperation, and I'm trying to not say that you were pushed here through desperation, but that's one way you got here. You were moving.
Yeah,
some
it was
way.
desperation.
It was desperation. Okay. And where are you from, Troy?
I'm actually from Los Angeles, California. Born here, raised here. Been in many states prior to that, settling in Fontana. So yeah.
So how did you get here from L.A.? I mean, what brought you to the inland area?
Well, my mother did. She
Okay.
moved out here when we were in our teens. I started high school out here.
Do you know why
So-
she moved out here?
Well, she wanted to get away from the LA, the congestion of LA, and
So
the
she was
environment.
getting away from something too?
Yeah, she was getting away from something. She just wanted to try to make an environment for us to grow up in that was safer, she felt.
So San Bernardino is a place for people getting away from something else, or what?
It's a place to go at the time.
Okay.
to kind of say, you know what, I don't want the gang-ridden neighborhoods. I don't want the hustle and bustle of the city to impede my children from succeeding. So, and this is where she ended up settling at because she found it to be a safe haven, what I want to say.
And you said that was in Fontana.
That was in Fontana.
What part of Fontana did y'all live in?
We were in the north side of Fontana at the time when we moved here, and then we moved over to the central part of Fontana.
Okay,
later.
how was the North Fontana when you first moved here?
For me, I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was a nice place to be. You got along with all the people around you. People was friendly, so they was a good people.
Mm-hmm. And what years was that?
That was in 1983. Yeah.
Okay. So was it Klan in Fontana when you got here?
I heard of Klan in Fontana when we got here, but I didn't experience any Klan.
You didn't experience
Right.
it. Okay. All right. And let's talk about the Black History Foundation. That's the correct name, right?
San Bernardino Black
San
Culture
Bernardino.
Foundation.
Okay, San Bernardino Black Culture Foundation. Why do we say Black History Committee? Why do
Well,
people say that?
because initially when it was founded with that name,
Okay.
and in time, because of of grants and things that we were looking at, we had to kind of change it.
So when was it formed? From the, I mean, Black History. When was that formed? And then the Black Culture came later. Do you know? Either
Well,
one?
I can't tell when it was formed. When I first came on board, it in 1985 or 1986, it was the Black History Committee.
Okay.
But there were a lot of financial constraints at that time, and Jim King, Juanita Scott took it upon themselves to try to get us out of that hole financially, and they were very successful in doing that. But as a result of that, and because of the negative uh, um, uh, identification with, especially with the business community, like the gas company, the Edison company, the hotels, telephone company, who had been sponsors, and people we had not, in a timely manner, paid. We just felt, or they felt at a time, we need to just rename um, uh, the organization. So it was at that time that it was founded as the San Bernardino Black Culture Foundation. So it was in the late 80s that it
So
changed.
was the objective or the mission statement or the visions the same, but the name was changed, or did the whole vision change, or the whole mission change?
I'm not sure, because I'm not sure I have a copy of the Black History Committee, or if I've seen, or any of us seen a copy of it. But I do know the mission statement was provided by Olivia Heath's husband, and I don't remember his name, Richard Heath. And again, that was in the late 80s that we came up with that mission statement. So I would be willing to say, but can't guarantee to say it was changed.
It was changed too. And how about the vision? Well, because it was a parade before, right? And there's a parade afterwards. So the parade stayed the same.
The parade stayed the same, and I don't think, I know the Kootenai people did the Hall of Fame event, but I don't think that was connected directly with the Black History Committee.
No.
But in addition to the parade, we decided to venture out and do other things. I don't think the parade committee gave scholarships. They might have. I know that, and I think they did, though, the Miss Black San Bernardino
Yeah,
pageant.
they
'Cause
did
that's
have
been, that,
Wilbur Brown.
right.
was
So
doing that.
Wilbur Brown was over that, and I think that was what they did, the parade and the pageant.
The pageant.
And we came on board, and we started the Black Rose and started giving scholarships. And
So the Black Rose, was that started by Dr. Scott, Juanita Scott? Or what role did she play in it?
it was actually started by Jim King.
Oh, okay.
We were at a meeting, I think one Saturday morning, when Jim said, you know, everything that's connected to black is negative. He said, but a rose has beauty, and why don't we have a black rose? So the first committee to work on that was Jim King, Jeff Hill, and Juanita Scott.
And Jeffrey Hill, the sheriff deputy that died,
That's correct.
he worked on the first?
The very first one.
Oh, okay. Now, who is Jim King?
Jim King was the district manager for the region for Southern California Gas Company. He was their public relations person, and I met Jim in 1985, and that's how I got involved in the parade, because I lived in Rialto at the time, and I was trying to get to Del Rosa, and the parade stopped me. So I was complaining to Jim about this parade, this particular Saturday, and it took me a while to get through. And he said, well, you need to come serve on the committee. And so the rest is history.
Okay, and we mentioned a little about Jeff Hill and the chef program, and I know you were connected with him on that, although they were peace officers primarily, but I know he really leaned on you to do that. What was your relationship with him, and why did he impress you as a young black man?
Jeffrey adopted me as his San Bernardino mom.
Okay.
And even his mother, Ernestine Austin, who lived in Los Angeles, looked at me as his San Bernardino mom. And Jeff told everybody I was his mom. So, and it was through, our connection was through the Black Culture Foundation.
Okay. And so you helped him in the SEP program. He helped with the Rose.
He was
Black
very
Rose.
involved with the Black Rose, with the parade,
too?
with the pageant. He was involved in all of it.
He was in all of them. So, Genevieve, you may know what were some of the problems or concerns or challenges that the old group had with the parade and the Black history, and which gave the negative impressions of some of the businesses that. What was all that about? Because if we want to talk about it, we can. We don't have to, but we have a chance now to record it.
Well, the founding fathers were businessmen. We had Frank Tilley, we had Alonzo Thompson, we had Harry Jacocks. There is a big roster, but when I think about the founding fathers, the ones that stayed with it, those are the names that come up. There was Ernie Wilson, and they were the movers and shakers. And I believe you have to remember when the parade first evolved, I was just a teenager,
Right.
and or I was about to be a teenager, and everyone that was or coming out if in the community, coming out, getting together, having fun, that was our hoorah back in the day, But I do believe that the reason for that is because there was a point we couldn't even be a part of the parade. The pacesetters couldn't go downtown San Bernardino because we weren't allowed down there. We couldn't go. We couldn't. And I'm amazed by being able to go across the train track because there's a time you couldn't go past Cajon Boulevard. And so they decided they wanted to have our own parade. And they did other things. They used to have Easter egg hunts. But we were more family orientated. I don't care if you came from the projects, which is where I came from, or if you came from the gardens, or if you came from the heights, or if you were on the closer to the freeway. That was the time we came out, and we would go after the parade. We go to the park, and there weren't any problems back then. We were just a melting pot of people. And we were family. We were one. We were like the Jamaicans on the west side of San Bernardino.
So these people did good, but something happened that changed some of that. And I'm trying to find out, if I can, what happened to make that change.
When you say change?
Well, you changed the name.
Well,
you incorporated differently. You got other grants. I remember that. So that's what I'm talking about. I saw a change, but it wasn't noticeable. It was. Let me put it this way. It was a seamless change. I didn't see a seam in the change, but now that we're talking about the change, it must have been welded together pretty nicely. So I'm trying to find out what caused it to be needed to be welded together.
Okay, if I may say, there was a time in life where we used to, if we said something, if we shook on it, that was the way that it was. And I think that was in the business world and the world altogether. But, then we started, if it wasn't in writing, then you could operate like a corporation, but not really be a corporation. And I was the secretary for a number of years, and as I began to look at the paperwork, you know, in my research, I found out that there are a number of paperworks that we were listed and as a corporation. We had the corporation paperwork, but the filing wasn't there. And I think that the black world on the west side of San Bernardino figured if they filed it, it was filed, and that was it. You didn't have to do it. But there was changing of positions, and while that was going on, someone dropped the ball. But everyone would pass the paper, and oh, this is our. But it wasn't. It wasn't for real. So we had to go back in, and do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about. We're now in an age where everything's on the computer. So if you want to know if that person is actually a nonprofit organization, you could just go over to that computer and you pull them up. And if they're not, they're still listed, but they're inactive. So we wanted, for the preservation of the organization, to get everything the way that it's supposed to be. We are doing our own little archiving. Troy is actually working on, what is that you're working on? The putting them in still.
Oh, put them in digital form.
In digital form,
Mm-hmm.
so that we have it. Because one day we're not going to be here. When I look around, Jeff's gone. Harvey's gone. Ernie Wilson is gone. Chuck Burris is gone. Taylor Avery is gone. Dr. Scott is gone.
Right.
We're dying off,
Right.
and that's the pleasure of living. That's your reward one day. But so, in short, we were just preserving and getting everything in line and picking up what we had. Now, I have to say, Alonzo Thompson was actually the author of the original corporation and the bylaws and what have you, and he was excellent with that. And so a lot of what he did has stayed there. The only thing that we did is we kind of brought it up to current verbiage,
Mm-hmm.
and Marcus Houston had a committee, and he worked through all of the what's in. I mean, it actually kind of took a couple of years to do it, only because you have different views, and you may have a scholar that says, but that's not grammatically correct, and so the formation changes.
Uh-huh.
But we got it right, and we're a viable nonprofit organization.
I remember big change when I say big change, I'm talking about a real big change when Jim King and I think Dr. Hill and some other, Dr. Juanita Scott and some of them came on board. They seemed to have infused, a different level. But like I said, it was seamless. Things just change automatically. So those of us on the outside, we don't know what's causing the change. But we did see better. It was better than it was, because at the beginning it was better than it was in the middle. So it was always better and worse at different times depending on what the circumstances are. Now, have you impacted the young people? And I think I want you, Troy, to look at that, because you may be one of the younger ones here. Go ahead.
I wish I could say that we've really impacted the younger people in our community and getting them involved in what we do. And unfortunately, we haven't as much as I think we should. But I hope as we go forward, as we go on, we start to engage our younger people in the community to get more involved. and be more active in our organization. Right now, there's a lot of organization that's come up and has been developed over the years that are getting our young youth involved and targeting them directly. I think for us, because we do have an older group, an older kind of board, we try to bring in younger people. I mean, I came in a couple of years back, but yet I'm still not as young as what the people of the generation that we need at this point in time to really take the organization onto another level.
So what do you think is going to take for that to really make sure that it's continued, it's tradition that it has been for years?
I think we're just going to have to really buckle down and get out there and get involved more in the community. Right now, the board is the only part of our foundation that is pretty much involved in what goes on in the community, and then yet we're not as involved as we should be. And it's because we do have an older board that is spreading out too thin, or they have work, they have other things that they get involved for, and trying to leave it up to some of us younger people to come in and handle it. And we just don't have the know-how like they do.
Yeah.
We don't have the social. They're more of a social network that are people-oriented, where our younger generation is more of a social computer interactive group. And unless we move in that direction, it's going to almost be more difficult for us, because the more we go, the more technologies play a role in how we communicate with each other.
Dr. Hill, you have been active with young people all the time since I've known you as a teacher, educator, and you talked about Jeff Hill. He died 20 years ago in December, and so he was a young fellow that you embraced. What did you do that has not been done now? What do you think you did then that you don't see being done in a wide scale now?
Well,
in terms of young people, I'm talking.
Well, I don't think as an organization we have moved away from what we traditionally do. I think with not having a parade, it's going to give us an opportunity to do those things, and we've certainly talked about doing some other things. One was the attempt at doing a workshop on for scholarships and financial aid. We had Cal State there. We had the members of the organization there.
Recently?
Well, within the last couple of years, but we didn't get the students there.
Oh.
So the thing is, we have to take a look at what we need to bring them in, and the financial aid certainly didn't do it. But I believe there are some things we could do. Now, another thing that we did a long time that we haven't talked about yet was the Easter egg hunt in Elmwood Heights. We did that for a number of years. That was very successful in getting young people out and getting them involved. But I think what it's going to take is we're going to have to come up with something where young people is going to see it as part of their life, such as, it could be an art contest or a talent show or something of that nature, because we still get young people involved, through the pageant. We not as many young people as we would like, but we still get them involved that way.
Do you give scholarships?
We give scholarships for the pageant. We give scholarships for those not in the pageant. They just have to submit an application.
Oh, okay.
So
you're doing a lot of good things.
We're still doing a lot,
Yeah.
And again, the lot that we're doing is not that visible,
Right.
out there, but. We'll work on it, and we'll come up with some strategies.
I was going to follow up on that when she said visibility and the new technology.
Yeah, and Ms. Hill is right. We do still do things for the youth in the community, and it's actually us going out and doing things for our youth. And the question is, how do we get youth more involved to be able to carry forward what we've already began and to continue on? And I think that's what we struggle with right now. Is just getting that youth involved and being able to come up through the ranks and take over. We don't have a big issue as far as trying to do things for our youth. It's more of just trying to get them involved. And that's what I was talking about when I was saying that. Just trying to engage our youth to come and get involved in them and to carry on the legacy.
Well, do you see?
Can we put the piggyback? Go ahead.
Yes. Would you amplify on what Troy was saying?
And Troy is so correct. We are involved, but we do need to bring them on board. But the one thing that I try to do, especially with the Black Roads, when you see a lot of young people there, we bring them there for a reason. Usually they get complimentary tickets just so they can see what we're doing.
Right.
And being at the Black Roads, and I know you were there the last one, our MCs, Terrence Stone and Harder Brown Jr., those are some of the young people we're talking about bringing in, Kimberly Benton. So, and then Miss Black, San Bernardino also was a part of that. So
that's what I wanted, because we say young people, and I was going to ask you, do you think Dina Walker, Hardy Brown II, Joseph Williams, are the young people we're talking about, or younger than that, in terms of young people we're transferring knowledge to? Not only knowledge, but resources and everything. Are they the young people you're talking about? Or?
Want me to answer that? Or you?
oh, you go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
They are part of the young people we're talking about, but we are trying to get a younger generation, starting in their 20, 21, 22s up.
Okay.
And then as they come up, at least in the community, as they go out and do other things, they know how to draw people in to take those places. Because now what you're doing is you're establishing a network, and you want that network in order for the foundation to continue to grow. Because if you start with the younger people, as they come up through the ranks in that foundation or organization, they may lead and go off. Because like Margaret Hill and Genevieve, they've been supporting and there for a very long time, and sometimes when they want to move away, they kind of fear to move away because there's not anyone to supersede them. So, so it's kind of like when you can feel comfortable, like you have enough of a group there, and you step back, and you can start reaping your rewards in a sense, or per se. It makes you feel a little bit better to know that there's younger people, and then you have that eternal youth to kind of flow through and come up through the ranks.
If I'm not mistaken, I showed you a picture of some of the original parade people. You remember I gave you that
Yes.
picture? I think that was in '69 or something. I'm not sure. Do you know when the parade actually started? Was it in '69? Or we can find that out if you don't know.
Again, I was still a kid, but I want to say it was 68, 69.
Okay.
And we tried several routes. We've had several routes within the time that I started going to the parade to the time that we hosted our last parade. We've had several routes. But I have to say, I'm probably, knowing that why we had our own parade, I was happy to see it go down East Street. And my reason might have been a little selfish, but it was because there was a time we couldn't have it. We couldn't be a part of it. So we could now have it down East Street. And San Bernardino has become so diverse, we're no longer cordoned in one part of the city. We all over the city. If you look at in the mountains, some of those big homes are owned, by minorities. When you look at Lake Arrowhead, that was built by a black contractor. I was born and raised here and didn't know that until maybe 5 years ago. And I had been up there as a child and never knew that a black man built it.
So what motivated you? You were here. You were young. You said when the parade started, you were real young, right? But you got involved at some point. Who were the leaders, or what was it? Or was it your business interest that caused you to do that?
No, Alonzo Thompson was really the one. He had been on me since probably 1980, 81. In part, it was all about my elders. I was always taught, that you make a mark in life. When you get, when you get to where you're going, you reach back, you bring someone with you. Don't ever forget where you came from. Make sure that history is not lost. I did not intend to be the president of the Black Culture Foundation.
Yeah, but I want to know the things that you
What
mentioned.
engaged me?
Yeah, but I mean the things that you mentioned. We could say that to every young person that's coming along, I'm sure. But what would make the young person do that? That would motivate me. And as you said, it motivated you and me. But that's what's motivating young people now, or is it something different?
We're living in a different time. It's a perilous time right now. You know, kids are engaged in text messaging on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, on all those social networks. They're not really, looking to see the past. I've had kids say, well, what do I want to know about the past? And I said, because that is how you get to your future. You have to know your past, where you came from, what the struggles were. I came up in an era of time where, I was told we stood on each other's shoulders, on each other's backs, and we got where we needed to go. Personally speaking, I only became involved with the organization is because I felt it was my time to give back. I had people that gave me. It was time for me to give back. And it allows me not to forget those that sacrificed so that I could be where I am today, There are a lot of people that I went to school with that didn't have that privilege, And in today's time, I kind of will go back and piggyback on Miss Margaret and Troy, and that is that there has to be a new way that we approach them. Am I ready to engage myself in that? I'm a great grandmother. I want to spend time with my great grandchildren, but I know that down the road there has to be something, and I do think about it when I'm playing with the boys. I wonder how their life is going to be when they grow up, or will they change the world, and if so, where does it start? And just teaching them those golden rules that I grew up with, because kids today are ruthless. I mean, they probably could see a drive-by shooting. I'd be scared of it, but they'd probably be like, oh, wow, that was so-and-so.
Could you turn it off just for a minute, please? Dr. Hill, you are on the Board of Education. You've been teacher and educator for some time, and you're seeing young people. Do you think the young people are as different today as Genevieve seemed to say, and the word you used, that they were, it was a negative word.
Ruthless.
Ruthless, yeah, children.
And I was shaking in my boots to hear that.
We can take that out because all of them. So I want to ask you, what's your opinion on that and her word, that usage of that word, ruthless?
Well, we have some awfully good kids. We have some kids who, for reasons not their own, was just not given the proper guidance.
Okay.
And I never think it's too late, for students. And I can understand what Genevieve said, because media-wise, that's what we talk about, and that's the reason I write an article for the Sun newspaper every Sunday. Because
that's a positive article.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of good kids out there doing a lot of good things. Many more good kids than bad kids. But it's like that bag of peanuts. You eat the whole bag almost till you get to the last two, and one's rotten. And someone said, "How those peanuts?" And you said they were rotten. You never talk about the other part of the bag that you've eaten. Well, this is kind of it with our kids. But I have a lot of hope for our kids. I was at the Botillion, and I tell you, it would have brought tears to your eyes.
Boys.
Those guys, those young men, I tell you, I would have been proud of having either one of them, all of them, as my, son. And it wasn't just they were putting on a show. That was their life. That was a lifestyle. That's how they lived and what have you. But but you know what we do, we have some challenges.
Yeah.
But I think what we need to do is not give up on them. And I think many of them are willing to change. And I can give you an example. Last Friday, I was going into a market. Young man, I guess he must have been about 10 or 11, was walking out of the store with his mom, who looked to have been about 30. And he took a wrapping off of a straw. He threw it on the ground. So I'm as close to them as I am to you. And I said to the young man, I said, you know, young man, if you don't pick that paper up, it means I have to, because I don't want a dirty city. He kept walking, and so did Mom. Now, see, my mom, I'd have still been looking for my teeth. If anyone had asked me to do that and I ignored them, you know, much less drop the paper on the ground. But if the mother didn't respond, so I'm sure the kid feels, you know, I was minding my business. She had no business saying anything. So
what percentage of kids is that? Because I don't want to get the impression that they're all ruthless, but
Right.
some of them are.
But you know, but even then, I didn't see that kid as being. If I saw that kid as being ruthless, that kid would have said, he either called me a name that I wouldn't want to repeat, or either say mind your own business. He didn't say that.
Okay.
So I was proud of him that he didn't say anything negative to me. I wasn't disappointed in him because he was practicing what had been preached to him.
Right.
I was disappointed in the mother that she didn't feel the need to say, you know, didn't you hear her talk to you, or did you drop that on the floor on purpose, or why don't you go by and pick it up? So I didn't even see him as being ruthless. I saw him following the lead of an adult. And as adults, we don't always do the things that we need to do just to show our young people. And they watch us, and they do what we do. So, you know, I mean, even with the situation in Baltimore, there should have been a whole lot of moms out there whipping up on their kids instead of just that one. Yeah, exactly. Should have been a whole lot of them doing the same thing. But you know, again, it's our young people know exactly what they can get away with and how much they can get away with, and they do it. But then, so did you, and so did me, and so did the two of you. But you know, but the thing is, we knew we couldn't get away with it. So if had an adult said that to me, I would immediately say, "I'm sorry," and would have picked it up, because that's how I was trained to do. Whether you believed it was the right thing or not, it was the mere fact that an adult was asking you to do something.
And Joy, let me ask you this. Why do we still, in 2015, need a black cultural foundation, black anything, black history, black culture? Why do we need that today, 2015?
You know what, I ask myself that question a lot too. You know, I say, why do we need this? We're living in a world where we're supposed to be united, you know, one people, one nation, that kind of thing. And when I look at and I think of, you know, the United States as a melting pot, I also think that we come with a lot of different cultures. And I think when you know where you come from, you kind of have more pride in yourself and where you're going. And even for me, when I started with the Black Culture Foundation, I landed in there by chance. It wasn't, I didn't go seeking, oh, I'm going to go join this organization. I went on there because I was working on a project for them. And I was already starstruck and just with the name Black Culture Foundation, because for me, I was like, I don't know anything about my culture or my roots per se. And I was thinking, okay, what is a black culture?
Right.
You know, how do we get to where we are now, and how are we supposed to act? Because I'm always hearing about the Mexican culture, and you can see that evidently in their culture. You know, you hear about the Chinese culture, and you can see it evident in their culture, and they practice it. And then when people come and ask me, well, where are you from, and what is your background, and what, I really didn't have an answer. You know, I didn't have when I heard about Kwanzaa, where did Kwanzaa come from? What is it for? Why is it a black thing? You know, when I hear about the Jews and their religion, you know, it was just questions that I had that I wanted to have answered. So I think, yeah, it's still a vital part in our everyday life. 'Cause I'm sure there's other young people coming up that want to know these things and that want to know, did I practice, or did our family practice this culture, or did we have it and then lose it, and where did we lose it at?
And I know Dr. Hill is from Virginia, and so am I, so it was segregated. And Genevieve talked about, even though it wasn't signposted segregation here, but it was. But did you grow up in an integrated environment?
I believe I did. I didn't feel like I was not an integrated environment. I grew up around white. I grew up around Mexican people. It wasn't. So when people talked about they were targeted, or I couldn't understand that. You know, when people go, well, that's just a white thing, or they're prejudiced. I didn't get that because I never felt that.
So you had to learn these things that they may have experienced.
Right. I had to
And so that
learn and
made-
start to open my eyes and observe.
So do you think that affected your outlook on things, or did it make you more desirous of knowing more about your history and working on it, or what? How do you think that affected you?
It affected me in a way, you know how you the saying eyes wide shut? It helped me to stop walking around with blinders on and start to observe people and see people for what they really are, whether that's positive or negative. To be able to identify those that were harboring ill feelings toward me, or that really embraced me. I think that's kind of where it started to take me, and then it did make me want to know more about what a black culture was and where we come from, and it made me also see that we're a very, very, very diverse group in itself.
Within
its own structure, because we may, if you come from Africa, you may have some of the African traits and the African culture that comes with you. But if you're here in the U.S., you, depend on what part of the U.S. come from, you develop your own culture. So it enlightened me on that. We don't have a predominantly black culture where all black people practice the same thing. We kind of depend on where you are from. Even within the same city, you may develop different and new cultures.
Right.
So So it kind of opened my eyes up to that too, to saying, okay, we don't have a predominant culture. We have culture that might have manifested from that, but in all reality, it's one in itself, its own.
What do you want young people to see in you 50 years from now when they look back and say, Troy? And what will they say? What will they see in terms of success, or what you contributed?
I like to see that, I would like people to see me being a kind person, person that is committed to helping people move forward, not hinder people, someone that they can look up to or admire to be like, and overall just a positive person. That's what I would like people to see me as, someone that's positive.
Okay. So, Genevieve, you've been around for a while in this area anyway, and you've seen a lot of changes. Do you think the integration of our community helped us, or do you think that may have set us back, or is just what it is? How would you describe that situation in San Bernardino area?
Well, again, in the very beginning, in the 50s, when the base was here, the west side of San Bernardino was a melting pot. I mean, we had people from all over the continent that was here, and it was really mixed. It was mixed, and it wasn't until in the latter days, or in probably in the 60s, when it started going to just predominantly Mexican and black, and now it's predominantly Mexican. But I'd have to say that that it's changed, and in 50 years it's going to even be changed even more so
Down the road.
down the road.
What do you see? they're going to see you hesitating, first of all.
Yeah, because I'm looking down the road,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes I want to just close my eyes because I don't see where we've gotten. I've seen where we have a black president. I never thought I'd see that a day in my life. You know, there's a good chance we're going to get a woman president. And if I live long enough and that happens, that'll be something. Um, in 50 years, if we don't pick up our pace again,
As black people you're talking about.
Mhm.
Okay.
um, because back in the 60s, you know, we were on a high, we were on a movement. And somewhere along the line, it was like the stage just fell and we fell with it. You know, we hear about all the other things that went on during that period of time, and you know, but if we don't band together and strengthen what we do, um, and even as far as organizations, you know, San Bernardino Black Culture Foundation has a lot of good ideas, but guess what? There are other organizations out there that have just as good ideas. And if we would all band together 50 years down the road, if we did it right now, it'd be all good.
And so, Dr. Hill, then how do you see us banding together, as she said, or do you see us together? So a lot of people don't see us together. Some people see us together. So how do you see us
Well,
as black people?
I don't really see us working in a unified fashion. Um, I've never seen us work in a unified fashion, and I'm not sure I ever will. I think the concept is good, and I think we can move further if we did. But we continue, you know, we don't trust ourselves, and we don't trust each other. And I'm being as honest as I possibly can.
That's what I want you to
You
do.
know, because
What's some
there,
examples of that? Not the trust, distrust.
well, well, let me give you some examples that, as being the past chair of the Black Rose, whenever decisions are made on a selection, and we do not select, if we have 3 members from the Black Culture Foundation on the to make a selection, we have four people from outside of the organization,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the time, one person who serves on the committee is away from everybody. And so the people outside, I try to get people who don't even know, you know, the people. So what has happened almost, if not every year, someone has called me to say, I don't think that person deserves that award. And, you know, my comment is, there are probably a lot of them who don't deserve the award. But when you depend on a committee to make that selection, you go with that selection and you endorse that selection. So we have a hard time of doing what's good for the community, and sometimes we get into picking the community apart. You know, so if we select 8 people, and if it's one person that they feel shouldn't get the award, I would rather have people to say, you guys did a good job. Because I know 7 of those 8 people deserve it, but instead, you know, back to that bad peanut.
Right.
You know, you can make an issue out of that one person for whatever reason. Never had anybody to come up with 2 people at one time that they didn't think deserved the award. So that's one example of, you know, what I'm talking about. But yeah, and there are a couple other things that I certainly don't want taped, you know,
Okay, don't say it.
that I could share. So since
well,
So-
because
so-
sometimes, and I just want to throw this out there, I see unity in diversity as the key, not unity in the same uniform. That's why I like WAG, because it's not 2 people in there. We got Muslims, we got Christians, we got atheists, we have all types of people. We got Canberra people, we have all types of people there. And so that's the strength of it, because we don't try to be the same. and I see that as a key, but I don't know how to move that forward if we don't have the trust. See, you used to use a key word there that we may not trust each other enough to do that, because if I'm your brother, you got to somehow trust me, even though you may not understand all that's going on with me. How can that happen?
Well, and I think it's important to say that it didn't just happen yesterday. It goes back to slavery.
Right,
The field people didn't trust the house people.
right,
The light-skinned people didn't trust the dark-skinned people.
right.
And I mean, even now, when I pick up a magazine, even with the AKAs, because back in the day and in the South, the old saying, light bright, darn near white, or else you can't be a member of AKA. And so I had sense enough not to even, apply. So even now, when I look at AKAs, I look to see the complexion
Oh,
of the AKAs.
even now.
Even now.
And
I-
why
you know-
would you do that?
Because that's what I did for years when I was in Virginia
But
with
you know
AKA.
that's wrong.
Well, it was wrong then.
Uh-huh.
But that was the way it was. But again, just trying to take a look at the change and what
Right.
have you.
Mhm.
So even with that, it has nothing to do with AKA does a wonderful job. They're involved in good projects. I love them. I love them as my sisters. But if anything happened, and if someone said leave Delta, which I haven't been active in, and go to AKA, I couldn't do it
Right.
because of I know from whence they came,
Right.
and it still sticks there. And I think that happens with a lot of African Americans. We still deal with the roots
Uh-huh.
of things that happened in the past.
Did you know, any of you know Reverend McDonald? You should have known him, Mount Zion.
Yes.
Mount Zion.
He was our senior king. He and Miss McDonald, they were our senior king and queen one year.
Okay. Well, here's what he told me when I first came into this area. He said, we're tribal. He said, the pastor is the chief. Each pastor has their own little tribe. Temple, New Hope, he named them all, including his own in church. And he said, as long as we see that difference, we won't be able to come together. We have to say, okay, you can go ahead and be an AKA or Baptist or Elks or WAG or whatever, but we're still brothers. He told me that, and that was 79. And I haven't seen it in its full manifestation yet. But I thought that was one of the best answers, because it does come back a long ways, from on the other side of the water, on this side of the water, and then what was put on us as people. But this is a very strong traditional organization, and the parade was finally stopped altogether, as we knew it. What was the cause of that?
Finances.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, it was just it was a time when we were, when the budgets and everything was being cut, and
Especially in the city.
right, in the cities, and trying to get funding was more difficult. So it wasn't intended to stop, but we tried to really pass it on to an organization that we thought would be able to carry it through. But then, like anything, when you pass it along, it still needs someone there that is familiar with it to help keep it going. But predominantly, it was because of finances.
So, Genevieve, did the parade ever think about earning money to sponsor the own program, like you do with the dinner? You sell tickets, and I'm sure it pays for itself, primarily with your sponsors, so it
Yeah.
pays for itself. But you sell tickets to that. The parade, you don't sell tickets to people. We all watch it for free. And how about vendors or anything to earn money, T-shirts or?
Well, we actually did do that. I think we thought outside the box of what we could do when we had our first expo, and we had that at a Royal Valley high school when it first came up, and I thought that was excellent because we were like the village people. I said, look, whatever it's going to take, if you have a hammer, if you have nails, whatever we're going to do, we're going to set it up. And it was very successful. But then the school changed because they needed it on that second Saturday of the month because they were
First Saturday.
first Saturday of the month because they were having the
Academic decathlon.
Oh, okay.
and so we couldn't go there anymore, and we moved it. But ultimately, our organization, while we strive to still be a visibility in the community and viable to the community, we really look at our scholarships. How much money do we have budgeted for our scholarships? And when you're taking away from the scholarships to give a parade, at some point we had to sit and say, look, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense, but how are we going to do that? And then we don't get to get the kids a scholarship. And I don't think I was the only person that was thinking that way. So, as a foundation, as an organization, through membership, we had to really, really think about it. And we really thought, because we talked about, let someone else get involved with the parade. There was another organization that is a good organization. We'll let them do it. And it was encumbering to them, though they're still doing the expo. I know they may not want to hear this, but I would really like to bring the parade back. And I've been talking to people in the community, but it's going to take us all to do it. It's going to take the entire village. It's going to take the churches. It's going to take all of the organizations. It's going to take the kids getting involved. It's going to take us all because the cost is staggering. And I personally don't feel that the city should do that. We should be self-sufficient enough to do it. We as people, we want to see it. I know when I want to go to a concert, I'll pay to go to a concert. If you want to come to a parade, and I do like your suggestion there, subtle as it was, buy into our future. Let's have a cultural event. Let's bring different people that can. I remember back in the 60s, I don't know if you were when Francis, they had brought the people from Africa, and they actually had they cooked and stuff, and they were telling us things, and it was the where, and we were on Mount Vernon doing this, but it was just so neat.
Mr. Townsend, I think, was involved in that too.
He was.
Uh-huh.
And so, now kids now can see. Yes, it's nice when we brought the parade, when Rosa Parks came, and I remember standing next to this woman, and the kid nudged her and said, "Grandma, who is that?" And the grandmother told her, she's covering her own, and she says, "Baby, you're watching history."
Mm-hmm.
That was rewarding. That was a good feeling because everybody that had worked diligently to bring Rosa Parks, and I mean, we've had a lot of great people, but we have a lot of great people in the community. So if we want to continue, if we would like to bring the parade back, we know it can't take away from our scholarships, so we all would have to become involved. We'd all have to engage.
Community.
The whole
Community.
because then we could be a part.
Well, have you gone to different people like Wag and said, Wag, for the parade, I need $5,000 from you. For this one, I need $2,000.
It's not the money. It's the
not?
Manpower, and the money,
And
money. But for real,
it takes a lot of people.
Margaret holds our foundation down, and she has. And I tell her this: she has been my shero. I look to her to try to be dignified and try to be softer with my words. But sometimes that's just not me. And I get emotional because in the 60s, I bought into King's Dream. And I look now, I sometimes wonder, what would our ancestors say if they could just sit up on our mountains that we're surrounded by and just look? What would they say?
Let's look in the future for a minute. We got a few more minutes, and I want to ask you, because Dr. Hill mentioned scholarship, or somebody, we've mentioned scholarship. Is it possible for all these people who give scholarships to put that money together for a big scholarship or some kind of way. Mina Carter Foundation, we give scholarships. People ask WAG to open up a scholarship fund in their name with something that's happening with the black graduate. So we said, well, we don't want to sponsor a scholarship. We want to give people who give us scholarships money. And we don't need another WAG scholarship. I mean, that's what we saw. But you're younger. Do you see us getting together with a scholarship so it could be really meaningful? Because I think last week, what they give, $10,000 or so, the Swans, what did they call it?
The Botillion.
Botillion. They gave
Socialites.
money away. They gave, and there's a lot of scholarships being given out. So I'm not knocking that. What I'm saying though, would it be better to somehow combine all of these resources?
That's a tough one to answer. And the reason I say that is because each group that give away scholarships, they're really trying to give scholarships to as many of our youth as possible. And if we're talking about giving larger scholarships, that means
larger funds,
or even
And
larger,
why?
well, yeah, we can pull a larger fund to give more scholarships out. That would be more beneficial. But usually, if you're having a larger amount of money, if you have a group that says, oh, we usually give out 3 scholarships, we usually give out 4 scholarships, they think about giving more money in a scholarship rather than saying, okay, we can give the same amount of scholarship to more people.
So what are you thinking on that, Dr. Hill, with scholarships and the various scholarship funds? There's a lot of them that I know.
I'm not sure, because one of the things we take pride in of saying my organization gave out $10,000 worth of scholarship. I mean, and then we look to see what your organization did, so
Right.
we can say we gave out more than you.
Okay.
But and again, that's a cultural thing
Right.
with us. And the reason I was laughing is the mayor put me on a committee with the ministers, which I begged him not to do. But he put me on, and I did agree to go to the meeting. Now there was a rabbi there was someone there from the Catholic Church, all denominations were there, and for the Mormon Church, just all. But at any rate, there must have been about 20 ministers there, and they all had a great time talking about, at my church I do this, and at my church I do this.
Right.
Not once did anybody talk about combining and say, if we put all our resources together, we can come to the middle of the city and take care of the city.
Right.
But everybody was doing their own little piece. So the purpose of that meeting was to come up with what can we do for our youth in this city as far as jobs and things of that nature. So one of the ministers said, well, number one, they don't know how to interview for jobs. They got to learn how to pull the pants up. You got to do this, that, and the other, and all these negative things. So after all the ministers had their say, I raised my hand and I said, I have a solution, and it won't cost you anything. So they all stopped and turned and looked at me. And I said, this meeting was on a Thursday. I said, you can start Sunday. Well, all you need to do is Sunday, when people show up at your church, whether you have 1 service or 3, have an extra collection plate and say, this is for the youth in our community. Collect the money. Once a month, we come together, dump it all, put it all together. I said, now some churches, you have 50 members. You aren't going to bring as much as the churches with 1,000 members. We know that. But everybody will share in helping our youth. I said, now, $10 an hour, and for 2 hours on a Saturday morning, Ray Culbertson can hold some sessions and do the things you say. We can teach them how to interview. We can teach them how to do a resume. We can teach them how to fill out an application. We can teach them why it's important to pull the pants up. And we can do all of those things. I said, if we get $200, we can train 10 young people. If we get 2,000, we can train 100.
Right.
And I said, it's a win-win situation, and it's no money out of your tithes, it's no money out of your missionary funds or any. And they looked at me and turned around and started talking like I hadn't said a word. And Mayor was the only one at the end who said, Margaret, I thought your suggestion was a good idea. I said, it's only good if you want to do it. But, so the thing is, I don't think there's anybody you would go to who wouldn't say, that's a good idea. But getting people to do it is going to be another thing, because we like being able to say, well, the Black Culture Foundation doesn't give out scholarships less than $1,000. The Links gave out $40,000 this time. The socialites, we take pride in that, and we have not, as a society of people, have said, look what we have done for kids. And you're right. If you put all of that money, can you imagine how powerful that is when people? We'll be the Black Bill and Melinda Gates, by doing that. But
you will be able
but everybody wants the credit.
Yeah, you'll be able to say if you able to enter the Cal State system, we'll help you.
Exactly.
If you qualify for that, we'll help you, and we'll be able to help everybody who does it, because we'll have so much money. But I see the Black culture. I probably said his name right. Say the name for me.
San Bernardino Black Culture Foundation.
I see that organization as being a key organization by virtue of your name, by virtue of your tradition, by virtue of young people coming in. I wonder though, is that shared? Is that vision shared by the community that I see? I see that's very important by virtue of, especially the name that you have. Not a stronger name. No matter what you call it, WAG or whatever, this is a name.
Well, I think it's shared by the community.
Okay.
I think people see us, even with the little bit of negativity we went through when we moved the parade from the west side to downtown. When we started explaining to people why we did what we did, a lot of people, even on the west side, said, "Thank God you moved it," because they would go downtown and they said they wouldn't go on the west side. So we found out that we had a lot of support, even though it was the quiet support, because they didn't want the other people who were against it, to come after them. But so I think a lot more people support our mission, our vision, and all of our philosophy with what we do. This is the reason we get, we have no problem selling tickets to the Black Rose. It sells itself.
Right.
I have people already, Troy, calling asking for applications. So the thing is, and it's one that is everybody feels a part of, even the whites, even the Hispanics. Everybody feel I can share in this vision, because if I make a recommendation, they're going to look at it. They're going to give my candidate or my application as much weight as the next application. So we have some where whites have made recommendations, and as you see, I think almost every year we either have a white or Hispanic getting one.
Right. So,
and we don't make the recommendations. It all comes from the community. This is why we say to the community, you recognize it. You identify the unsung heroes, and let us pull together a group to see which ones who will be recognized.
my last question is, what do you feel was your organization's biggest contribution to the African American community in the Limbaugh? But before you answer that, as a personal question, I always want to ask, why a Black Rose? Most roses I've seen, they're not black, unless they're dead or something. So I always wonder, why was this Black Rose? This is just a personal question. I mean, it doesn't know I'm asking this question. So anybody want to respond to that, or just say, get over it, Ratibu?
Do you want to answer?
If I may, Jeff and I kind of,
Jeff Hill.
Jeff Hill,
Okay.
when we were doing the, what it is, a Black Rose, and tying into what Jim had said, there is such a thing as a Black Rose.
Okay.
There is. And it's very exquisite.
Okay.
Very
rare.
and it's
Rare.
very rare.
Okay.
And so, but you know, Jim said it best. Even when I was coming up, everything associated to black was bad. So, back in the '60s, what kind of car are you gonna get? I'm gonna have a black car. They sent me to go see the psychologist because they said something was wrong with me. So I sat there and I said, well, the darkest soil, I'm told, is the best soil to plant something.
Mm-hmm.
And the darkest oil is the richest. Well, you want a black car and they carry dead people. I'm like, so I started doing yellow. Then I was okay. All my cars are black with the exception of the one that I have. But to say that the black rose is rare, and there are rare people in the community that we know nothing about.
Right.
And so when we extend for people in the community, because I don't know, or we've changed so much. There are people, that have done phenomenal things, and I am not even involved with it anymore. But when I read, and I'm like, oh my God, they do what? Fabulous people,
Wow.
and that just kind of makes you feel good about mankind.
Right.
We still have good people in the world that are making a difference in the world.
I thought it may be because when you're in business, when you're in the black, you're doing well. That's the way I look at it every year. Am I in the black or in the red? So if I'm in the black, I know I got some profit. So I didn't know it was because of that. But answer my last question. What do you feel your organization's biggest contribution to the African American community has been over the years? Anyone can handle that.
Well, I think we all should probably tell you
Okay.
from our own standpoint.
Okay.
Giving scholarships invaluable. We hear from the students, they go on, they do good things.
About how much have you given, you think, or estimate?
We give an average of what, four?
Four scholarships.
Four scholarships, but we have given as
actually,
many as 8.
Yeah, and we actually give about 6 because we give 3 and we give another 3 at the
Okay.
for the seniors.
All
Oh,
right.
But overall, how much have we given in scholarships? We came up with that dollar amount.
Yeah, we came up with that dollar amount. Can't remember what that dollar
Okay.
amount is.
Okay.
Just sad.
But
The scholarships, you would say, would be a big contribution, and you help kids go to colleges. Right?
that's a big contribution. I think one of the other big contributions is the exposure we give to our young ladies in building their self-esteem, attitude, character building through the pageant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the greatest thing is the exposure of the unsung heroes to the entire Inland Empire, because we've had people from San Bernardino and Riverside County. So just making people aware of how rich and how wonderful the African American citizens are.
You want to respond to that, Genevieve?
No,
Biggest achievement.
I kind of like what Margaret said, and I would probably piggyback on it, only to say that for the contributions that our founding fathers made, that their work wasn't in vain. We're still keeping hope alive. We're still trying to get people to embrace their idea and make a difference for someone else in life. Inland Empire life, West Side life, in mankind.
How about you, Troy?
And I would say that being an organization have been around for as long as it's been around, I think we give to the community a sense of strength, a sense of integrity, also something to be proud of. Because like you said, the San Bernardino Black culture name in itself
Right.
carries a lot of weight,
Mhm.
And like I said, when I came on board, when I heard the name, I was like, like just starstruck. I was like, oh wow, I'm going to get ready to go do something for something that's huger than life itself, you
Right.
know.
That's what that name
Mhm.
means.
Yeah. So yeah, I would just say just the for it going through all it has gone through and survive all that it has had to survive. Yeah, will gives hope.
So the question was a big contribution. I was hoping one of you said the senior king and queen, Burnham Bragg. I know that's a brag. Harry Rubottom and Mrs. Rubottom. I could just see them, with their little proud
Right.
self. Nobody mentioned that, but I see that as a big thing when you recognize not only youth,
Mhm.
with scholarships, but these
Mhm.
seniors,
Seniors.
maybe because I'm 72 myself, and it's a valuable thing,
And you're right when you say that, because when you look at um, royalty,
Hmm.
then you go back to what does it mean to be black? And when you speak of black people, when black people speak of themselves in the most positive way, you hear them talk about royalty.
Right.
That rarity, that rare moment where, a race that people try to diminish and make light of comes from a very strong background, have a very strong background. And whenever I hear we talk about historically, when we get past all the slavery and all that stuff, we go right back to royalty.
That's right.
So,
And do you want to say your favorite king and queen, Dr. Hill?
Well, I have tons of them, so you're not going to trick me that way. But but I do want to say, and gosh, I am so glad we didn't end this interview without talking about our senior king and
Yeah.
queen. But I think because we pushed youth so much,
Yeah.
we were all three focused that way. I do not have a favorite couple, but they're all good. They've all have done some great things. And when I think of Ida Robertson, and when I think of Art Townsend,
Right.
and Myrtle Ross, and and
Yeah.
these are some of the ones some of the early ones and
Mhm.
whatnot. These were great people in the community, great mentors, and people who really cared
So,
about San Bernardino.
any closing remarks before we go? Anything? We're going to review this, and may have to call you for more information. But we will collect pictures. That we have a lot of pictures on the early part of it. We'll splice it together. But any final comment from you, Troy, or anybody?
um, yeah, I really hope as we move forward that the San Bernardino Black Culture Foundation is around for many years to come. Um, I hope it doesn't come to a point where we start to feel as though it is, what's the term?
Dang.
Yeah, mundane or irrelevant, you know. Um, and I hope that we do get to a point where we revive our youth in getting involved and thinking about what our culture is. And it may look different, and I think it will look different because as we move forward and progress, we're going to merge. We're going to become a people of one race, one color.
So have you
Eventually.
thought about a paid executive director,
Oh,
like the Rose Parade? They have someone who works all year, on this.
we've
So
thought
I know
about it
you guys
many
are
a time.
volunteers. Anybody is an
Yeah.
executive director
Mm.
here? No? You just volunteer?
You just volunteer.
Just
Okay.
volunteers, yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
what do you think about something like that? Uh, will that take away from it?
When I go back in time, at one point we used to have judges that would come out and judge. And we had equestrians. And again, when it comes down to paying someone to come in and do a parade for us versus the scholarships, I will always vote down paying someone to take away from a child. But I'd like to thank you for allowing us to be part of your archiving, you know, thinking enough of us to ask us, and perhaps I don't know how far this is going to go, if you'll even release it into the media for viewing or what have you, just of the different organizations. But this may jumpstart the struggle that we have as an organization. While we're okay, we could be better with more people coming involved, and more so if you could even show it to the kids on campuses, so that they could see maybe during Black History Month, so
Right.
that they could say, "Wow, I'd like to do that. You know,
Right.
I'd like to stand on their backs like they stood on someone else's back," because without not only our organization but all Black organizations, we're only empowered by those that help feed us. And feeding us doesn't necessarily mean money. It means working with us, working with the kids, working with the community, you know, thinking about how we can make it better for the next generation. Thank you.
And Dr. Hill, I'll give you the last word.
Well, I just want to say, and I'll echo what Troy and Genevieve said. Thanks for giving us this opportunity, you know, to not only come in and talk about an organization we've been a part of, all of us, for a number of years, but also this has given me an opportunity to reflect on where I am and where I need to go and what I need to do. Because as a result of this interview today, I realized the job's not done for the three of us, and we have a lot to do, and I think we are all committed to go out and say to people, you have to come forward and help us, and not let this dream, especially San Bernardino Black Culture Foundation, where Jim and Dr. Scott worked so hard, going in their own pockets to bring money, to put in money to keep it, you know, going back in the early 80s. So when you do things like this, an interview, it really works on the conscience.
I just want to say this too in closing. In 1980, when I was working with Senator Ayala, my first assignment was to get him in the parade, let him rest at Dr. Harkins' office until they got started. And that was such a big thing, and I don't know what's going on, but that was my assignment, and that's the first thing I was asked to do in 1980 for Senator Ayala. So I appreciate the parade. I got a big history with that. Well, thanks again for sharing your thoughts with us and taking time out to be with us. And always know that we want pictures, we want documents, we want other things that we can scan into it to make the video and the pictorial something that we'll all be proud to show sometime in October. That's what we plan to do.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Came to me from what I gave you a copy of, that they were men. I didn't see any women in that picture.
When they first
Yeah.
started, it was gosh.
And I'll
He was
pull
a
that out
He was a
again. That's
teacher
a-
at
Real
Franklin.
at the very beginning, at that time, you know, it was, you know, maybe it was before Alonzo and not Alonzo, but Harry Jackson, Tilly, and it was the third one. Harry Jacks, Tilly, and who was that third person that was here? I mean, was it Ernie Wilson?
Ernie Wilson.
Yeah.
Because he worked for the city of San Bernardino.
Yeah, but before then, it was another group that sort of did it. Jim King, with Jim King, took it to a different level.
That would have been Chuck Burris, Jeff Hill,
Yeah.
who's that other sheriff? He was our treasurer for a while.
Bob Bales.
Bob Bales, and then Gerald,
Jones.
not Gerald
Joe
Jones.
Jones. Lady in the Air Force. She used to drive a convertible.
Oh,
Can't think
yeah.
of her
She
name.
so,
Oh, what
little
was
cute
her name?
lady.
Yeah, I can't think of
Yeah,
her
I
name,
remember
but she
Oh,
was.
Donnie? No.
So, see,
I
so
don't
yeah,
remember.
if you get a chance-
Doster was her last
Doster was the last
so if you
name.
get
Yeah.
a chance to write some of those names down,